Hello, everyone. This is our FCI Live Fall 2022 series. I am JQ Hanna, the Assistant Director of Food Co-op Initiative, your host for tonight. And we are excited. This is our second and final week for our fall series, and we're wrapping it up with a really powerful panel. Excited to have with us Ron Hantz from Network for Developing Conscious Communities. He's the Executive Director there, and he's brought together a panel to talk about building the future of the Black co-op ecosystem. And so I'm going to be handing it over to him and letting him introduce his panelists. They're going to run this as a discussion, and then there'll be Q&A toward the end. Again, if you have questions or comments you want to throw in the chat, that's something also that we'll be keeping an eye on and might get thrown into the conversation as well. All right. And with that, thank you so much for being here, Ron. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, well, thank you, JQ. Well, good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us this evening. And we're going to have an inspired conversation about the Black ecosystem and why we feel that it's important to move into the space of developing that ecosystem. I'd like to introduce my panelists. First, I have Keyona Hough from the Black Yield Institute. Secondly, I have Assata from Sankofa Research Institute. And thirdly, I have Gary Hampton from the Ajani Group. And also Gary is the vice chair of the Association of Cooperative Educators. So let me just frame the history of how we got into this space and what has motivated me regarding this developing this ecosystem for Black governed cooperatives. About a year ago, I decided to go down the pathway of doing a conference on Black cooperatives. And in deciding that, I chose to do some research on what kind of movements had previously been done regarding Black cooperatives. And so I came across a photographic letter that was addressed from the Poor People's Development Foundation. And in reading the letter, it shared with me that the Poor People's Development Foundation was founded as an outgrowth of the Poor People's Campaign in 1968 that was organized by Dr. King. And so under his leadership of Byron Ruskin and Cornbread Givens, they moved to elevate the need for cooperatives in Black and poor communities. And so this organization operated from 1968 until probably 1981, 82 before it ran into some issues and disbanded. But in 1978, this group had worked to the point where it had built a collaboration of Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, whites, churches to move on developing the format for a national bank. And so in 1978, the National Consumer Cooperative Bank was formed and chartered as the first national bank that would deal with cooperatives. And so with that came the passing of the guard in terms of what would precede the work. And so the National Consumer Cooperative Bank, which was later to change its name to the National Cooperative Bank, is the outgrowth of that work that the Poor People's Development Foundation initiated in 1968 through 1978. So with that, I decided that it was fitting to not only elevate the work that this organization had did, but to continue the work. And so that brought me to September of 2021 in terms of organizing a conference to address the issue of Black cooperatives. And so because of the pandemic, we had planned to do a hybrid, an in-person plus a virtual. But because of the hybrid of the conference of the COVID virus, we opted just to do the virtual. And so in April of this year, we came back and we did the in-person conference, which was really successful. Out of that conference came the thought that we would continue this work and building out the platform for a Black cooperative movement that would focus on centering energy around building a network for Black cooperatives. So here we are. We do have a date in mind that we're having this convening October the 21st to the 23rd. We're convening in Pittsburgh to not only explore a name of the organization, but to examine the mission, vision, how we incorporate, where we incorporate. So all the building blocks that come with building an organization we'll be exploring. So I want to turn my attention to my panelists, because these folks have been engaged in this whole process as well since the beginning. And so let me start with Assata Richards and ask her the question, why are you here? Why did you feel like this was an important effort that required your intentions and your intentionality to build?
First, let me thank Ron as the facilitator of the panel and the organization who's hosting this conversation for the astute nature of bringing together these opportunities to discuss Black cooperation and building of a Black cooperative ecosystem. And I came to do this work for some personally motivated reasons, and also some reasons motivated by the community of cooperation. So personally, I live in a historic African-American community. I'm a third-generation resident of an African-American community in Houston, Texas, known as Third Ward. It is similar to many urban cities, historic African-American communities that are at a crisis in terms of being able to maintain its identity as an African-American community by being able to maintain its residents, by being able to maintain the history and culture which define the neighborhood. And so I came to this work looking for some evidence-based, data-driven, proven mechanisms to address really economic stratification, to be able to address an impact for individuals who have historically been marginalized and locked out of the labor market, and a way to not just support individuals, but to build community wealth. And through our just research investigation, field trips to Cleveland, looking at the Cleveland model, field trips to New York and the Bronx, looking at the model of the green cooperatives and the other really cooperators around the country, we in Houston became very clear and determined that we wanted to build a Black solidarity economy to be able to preserve, protect, revitalize our neighborhood, and to ultimately halt gentrification, return our residents who have been displaced, and to create a prosperous neighborhood where African Americans can thrive. And so cooperatives became the real model for us. And in that search, I began to just reach throughout the country and ask the question, what are you doing where you are? Do you have any tools? Do you have any, PowerPoint decks? Do you have any information? And so I came to the conference looking for community and solidarity, and also understanding in Texas, in Houston, we're the only worker-owned cooperative. We were the first to start a construction company. We were the second to start a home care cooperative, right? We're the first in the nation to start a community health worker cooperative. So there were very few resources in our local ecosystem, right? And locally in Houston and Harris County, some in Austin, but definitely no demonstrated existing Black cooperators that we were able to identify. So we really came looking for community, and then realizing if we were going to be strong, we needed to build a network, right? We needed to build an infrastructure to be able to support our cooperatives locally, to be able to exchange information, collaborate, be inspired, be encouraged, be enlightened. And so we came to this work to be able to build our work here in Houston, but also contribute to a national movement. Because if Black liberation is going to be achieved, it's going to have to be a movement. And a movement is a coordinated set of activities, actions, and organizations aligned around a common goal in a protracted manner. And so our goal is to build a movement to encourage our residents, Black cooperators here locally, to ignite the imagination locally, and to also coordinate our activities for a more meaningful impact nationally and ultimately internationally for Black liberation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Keyona, same question. What brings you here to this space?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Baba Ron, for inviting me to this panel. The biggest thing for me is I just really want my children to be able to grow up in a space where they don't have to start at the bottom. So, and I also am really big on anything that I do that makes me better. So when I think about just in our everyday lives, we just really have to figure out solutions to our own challenges. So when I think about cooperatives, it's really just that in a nutshell. It's Black folk to me coming together and say, we got some challenges and we're gonna figure it out together, and we're gonna really get in and we're gonna figure it out. So for me, when I think about, I work for Black Yield Institute, and it's a Pan-African institution, and we're about Black land and food sovereignty. So we do political education, we do some farming, we have pop-up shops, and one of the initiatives that came out of Black Yield is the Cherry Hill Food Co-op. So we're in the beginning phases of the Cherry Hill Food Co-op, and just really kind of sorting through all of those, just what it takes to really have a business. That's the other side of cooperatives, is a business. Is a chance to really build wealth in a community, is a chance to learn business, is a chance to build cooperation, is a chance to collaborate, and is a chance to build community together collectively in this consistent manner. So for me, it's really just giving my children a chance to learn what it is to work together, because one of the things I think that has been said a lot, even in just my community, I would say specifically in Baltimore, is that Black folk are like crabs in the barrel. We're like crabs in the barrel. And when you think about like crabs in the barrel, they're not working together. They just kind of tearing each other down. But one of the things that always stuck out to me was that crabs don't belong in barrels. That's not their natural habitat. So if I think about our communities and just how we can just build from that, like this is not how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to work together. We're supposed to build together. We're supposed to do things collectively. That's really what brought me to the space.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Gary Hampton.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Same question. Do I need to
All right.
repeat it?
No, sir. First, I want to thank you again for the invite to be a part of this panel. And one of the things that really brought me to the co-op ecosystem was after attending a conference and my past experience working in economic development and community wealth building back home in Charleston, West Virginia, was that there were barriers to participation. There was always something there that kept legislation from going forward or being activated and enacted in a way that was beneficial for our community, which is a predominantly Black community that's been gentrified, just like with many other urban communities. Interstates coming through, malls going up, people being displaced, and then is forgotten about. And I feel that the big draw with the co-op ecosystem is the ability to move and flow resources, but the biggest part is being able to come together collectively, collectively organize and putting ourselves in a position to have ownership of our own sense of power through having decision making and choices when it comes to our place, to our purpose, and to what we want to accomplish as a people. So those are the big things, and it removes and it has all the tools and resources for socioeconomic empowerment. It removes the barriers of awareness, of availability, and accessibility to things like technical assistance, to capital, and to networks. And what we're hoping to build with this, and what we're moving towards, can address all of those things, not only in my community, but in other Black communities across the country or other marginalized communities. So that's my big draw, is being able to shift the power into the hands of the people, of the commoners, the people at the lowest levels that have always felt like they've been left out. And so it's not so much about just the work and the business model, but holistic community wealth building. It's an opportunity for us to really shine and really collectively elevate our own sense of efficacy in our communities, is building up and strengthening our self-determination as a people, and really taking charge of what our future will be, not only for us today, but for the generations going forward. So to me, it's really kind of a DNA thing and a lifestyle thing. And that's what brings me here, is just the hope and the opportunities that's on the horizon as we move forward in this great work.
Okay. Let me ask this question here, because I think that we, to elevate this conversation, we have to interject the question of race in it. So, what lessons or experiences would you share with the white cooperatives, and why they need to support this movement? I'll start that question with you, Keyona.
Okay. So I would say one of the reasons I think that white cooperatives should support our efforts is because a lot of the money that they have gotten over generations, it essentially belongs to us anyway. So the fact that you would really support our efforts is really important. And I also feel like it's a way to give back and just build in community altogether. Because when you have a certain amount of wealth in some communities and you hoard it and you don't really assist other efforts, I think that it just makes the community not work cohesively. So one of the things I think for that's one of the major things I would say. The second thing is, why not? I mean, I just feel like it's really just a question of not why you should. It's really just you should. I shouldn't have to ask you. I feel like we should just know that some of these things should be supported. Building in the Black community is important. And anything you do, to me, in my opinion, anything you do to support Black efforts is really going to make the world work more cohesively. So that's my thought process when I think about some of the other cooperatives. They have a little bit, not even a little bit more support when it comes to financially. They don't have to work as hard sometimes to get money to be as successful, because they have people who they're rubbing elbows with, I like to say, who actually just have money. So when you have that level of advancement, I think you should support efforts in different communities. So that's what I think in reference to race. And I will always stand behind that, because I just think it's just one of those things that really shouldn't be a question. It just should be what we are doing.
Assata, you like to respond to that question?
I think one of the most beautiful things about cooperatives is really the commitment to cooperation, right, and solidarity. When we were starting our work to build cooperatives, we were very challenged to find Black cooperators to really provide support and resources. We were able to find them, but it was difficult, and that's the reason why I'm involved in this national work, right, to make that less difficult. But what I was impressed about was the really deep generosity in the cooperative community. And I think that principle is one in which guides us and distinguishes us as our identity as cooperatives. And so cooperatives are established to meet the needs of the member owners, right? They're specific in that way that they are meant to meet the needs of the members. And then in the case of worker cooperatives, the worker owners, right? Those are the member owners. And so when we do that and we allow Black cooperators to establish cooperatives, Black residents and Black communities, we are meeting our very specific needs. And so what are those needs? We know those needs are economic, they're social, and they're cultural, right? And because of the specific historical experiences and narratives of people of African descent, our social and our cultural and our economic needs are unique and specific. And therefore, we need cooperatives to meet those needs, right? Because our relationship with work, our relationship with power, right? The ways in which our culture expresses itself, communication, those are very unique experiences for people of African descent. And so when we are starting cooperatives, we're starting them explicit to meet those social, cultural, and economic needs. And in this solidarity, cooperation among cooperatives, that principle mandates us to support one another, right? So when I go into the grocery store, I'm supporting Ocean Spray, I'm buying the cooperative cheese, right? I am supporting my brothers and sisters across the racial line and territories in cooperation, because I know that cooperatives build a better world for all of us, right? And so I think it's really important that white cooperators or those people of non-African descent understand that we live in a shared universe, a shared environment, right? If COVID-19 hasn't taught us anything, it taught us how interdependent we are, and how if we do not meet the needs of everyone in this society, then our lives and our well-being are at stake, right? COVID-19 showed us that, right? Because if we would have shored up some of the health disparities, some of the vulnerabilities, if we were caring for all, we would have been in a stronger ecosystem and environment that the disease would not have taken the path it took, right? So it laid bare those inequalities. And those inequalities are what is undermining the quality of life for all of us, some more than others. And so I always tell people, you support cooperatives because you support creating the world that you need to live in, that your children need to live in. When we were talking personally, I didn't say, I need to live in a better way. It is not sustainable for me on this planet to be in economic systems that are about extraction, domination, right? Alienation, right? Low quality of work, right? Trauma, right? So I build cooperatives because I need to work in a cooperative, right? I feel better about my life. I'm not building cooperatives for Black people over there. I'm building cooperatives for Black people right here, meaning myself, right? As someone with an advanced degree, I want to work in a cooperative. That's where I feel that I am best. And so I'll say to people who are non-African descent, of African descent, you need cooperatives because your life, your livelihood, your sustainability, and your quality of life require us to change this planet in dramatic ways and create more sustainable, equitable systems so that we can sustain on this planet together. Because there cannot be such great deprivation and such great oppression and it not undermine the quality of life of everybody. And I'll close and say, because white people, white women dance with the patriarchal devil, and I would say whatever that is, because you dance with patriarchy, because you took a two-step with patriarchy, you have now lost your rights widespread for right to control your reproductive systems, right? This is very important because you would not take a stand on white supremacy, right? And we dance with patriarchy, right? When we were telling you as people of African descent, we're moving to dangerous times. This man is dangerous, right? And so this man, whoever that man was, right, created a system that penalized everybody, right? But if we stand up for justice, then we protect ourselves. And so I hope these are some strong lessons to my brothers and sisters in the white community, the community of European descent, to understand that you cannot dance with patriarchy and capitalism and exploitation and not be burnt and damaged by these systems. These systems are not sustainable and they don't mean any of us any good. Some of us just suffer more than others.
Wow, Gary, you wanna chime in?
That's tough to follow right there. I love it. Thank you, Sister Assata. In speaking to it, I think first off we have to kind of thinking lines of Desmond Tutu and Ubuntu. Humanity is first and foremost. And I think, as Sister Assata spoke, is we've lost a lot of things through the systems and through the way the systems are constructed. But is seeing beyond allyship as just having diversity in the room, diversity at the table, and saying that there's equity there and there's inclusion, but is valuing the voices of that diversity when it's in those spaces, and then is listening to those voices actively and understanding that the needs are different, the experiences are different, and that is really with allyship is you have to let go of the leashes of the power and the resources and put that power and the resources in the hands of the individuals to steward it and allow them to take the power and control of their change at their local level within their local communities and on a national level through sisterhood and brotherhood. But then it doesn't mean that you have to be left outside of it, but is using your proximity to power and resources to actually disseminate that and spread that wealth and those opportunities out into the marginalized communities and not hold the reins on decision making. Allow the decisions to be made by the people themselves at their local levels, and then that's where you're really going to see the transfer and shift in power. And then now at that point, as an ally, I feel like that you're really going to be contributing to the shift of power, to the shift of wealth, and then also making it the world that we would all like to see and that we would hope to see, in the near future and for generations to come. We may not see the outcomes of the work that we're doing, but as we can plant the seeds and nurture the fields and move that pendulum in the direction in which we really want to see the change that's on the horizon. And it's inevitable. And, these systems are not sustainable and require drastic, intentional decision-making, change, and stewardship and redirecting of power.
Well, Gary, let me ask you to lead off this question here. How do you see this Black cooperative movement impacting the Black community?
I just got chills on that one, and is I think what it really allows us to do, this movement can, as we collectively organize towards that ownership of our power, place, and prosperity, is we can drive awareness of the co-op ecosystem. We can drive the awareness of what's available if we all participate within the system, and then we can also break down those barriers of accessibility as far as participation in the free markets by giving access to the education and technical assistance, to build a network of sisterhood and brotherhood, and then also is to be able to send flow of resources of capital, physical capital and social capital across our nation and throughout our communities from the local level up. And I feel like it really puts us in a position to actually break down a lot of our community-based silos that we have internally within our own communities that can actually strengthen our power so that we can withstand some of the challenges that we've had in the past and continue to move freely as free people and throughout with barrier-free access to all the wealth-building tools on a socioeconomic level. I feel like that's what we're really on the verge of doing, and that's something that we can really do and harness that power for change.
Keyona, would you like to add your comments to that question? How do you see this Black cooperative movement impacting the Black community?
The biggest thing I think is really just us working together cooperatively and really seeing how money really can be used for positive change. What I've seen in some settings is sometimes Black folk have a negative thought process when it comes to like large amounts of money. Us working together in reference to how money works, learning those things, I think it will really just give me 1 second. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's all right.
But I think it's just sometimes we do have this negative thought about money. And I think once we get money collectively, we work together cohesively, and we really learn just how bomb we are when we work together, and like how we really can affect change in a collective unit. Because you know what is the saying? Divided we fall. What is it? Divided we fall. Is it collective we build or something like that? I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. But I feel like y'all get the gist of what I'm saying. But I think once we really establish certain rules to how we should work together in a collaborative effort and really build movement from that place, I think it's just going to change globally. I mean, it's just going to change, period. Thank you. It's going to just change us. So that's one of the things I'm really, really excited about, because I think that it's really in our DNA. And I think I heard, maybe Gary may have said that, but I really think it's in our DNA to really work together. And somehow we've been separated from that. So when we get back to what is really like innate in us, it just changes things just for generations to come. So that's what really, really excites me about the movement, excites me about working together collaboratively, and really dismantling this thing that we have to do things independently to get things done. We really work so much better when we do it together collectively.
All right. Assata, you wanna add some comment to that question?
Yes. I think that it's important for us to, and I think this conversation is touching on it, but to be mindful of the deep trauma in which the experiences of African people, we've been exposed to a very traumatic life in this country. And that trauma is directly associated with work and labor. So our experiences with work and labor and ownership have been as traumatic as it can be. We were in fact owned, right? Our labor has been stolen since the day we've been in this country. And even when we work in an environment and a system that discriminates and denies us full ownership. We earn less, our degrees pay less, our houses are appraised for less, right? We die sooner before we reap the benefits of the Social Security system administration, right? We systematically are exploited at every step of the economic ladder in this country. And for me, what I am so hopeful about for Black corporation is for people of African descent to redefine that relationship with work and labor. When I was working in my community and we would have this issue about unemployment and work and young people, I'd say, it's not that people have lost their value for work. Work has lost its value to people, right? So if work had a value that was explicit, understood, right? Not only a material value, but a value of pride and dignity, right? So we work and we tell people to work because we feel good about that work. But when it's in systems that are exploitive and punitive to us, right? We don't get the privilege and the benefit of working in a satisfactory way. I say to Black people and everybody all the time, I think the saddest part of any week is on Sunday, right? It's on Sunday around 4:00 in the Black community when we start figuring out Monday is rolling around. And I don't care if we're working in a corporation or we're working at the checkout line. We begin to feel this collective sadness and mourning that we have to go. Black people still refer to their jobs as plantations. I got to go to the plantation tomorrow, right? We long for the time when we're off. We celebrate it, right? Because we're trying to get as far away from work as we can. And I believe that does us a great psychological, emotional disservice. And so for me, corporation and Black cooperatives allow us to reestablish a more holistic relationship with this thing called work and labor, right? To do it in a way that doesn't just benefit me individually, but that it benefits others and benefits my community, right? That aligns up with my spiritual principles, right? My philosophical leanings. And so for me, cooperatives allow us to recognize our agency and our ability. It's in our DNA because we've proven it, right? But some sort of way people, Dr. King said that somebody told a lie one day, right? And the lie was in the Black inferiority. When King talked about a lie, he talked about the Black inferiority that has been fed to Black people, right? And so we believe that if we got the best degree or no degree, we don't have the ability individually or collectively, right, to be able to create the solution to our problems, and we're dependent on other systems and validations outside ourselves. So for me, Black cooperation is the restoration of the Black community. Black cooperation is the restoration of the Black mind. Black cooperation is the restoration of the Black spirit, right? So cooperation allows us to move from a trauma-based set of relationships and systems to a holistic healing space where collectively we're recovering from white supremacy. Collectively, we're recovering from patriarchy. Collectively, we're recovering from self-hate. And we're beginning to see ourselves in a proper order and a proper light as a people with great value, great dignity, and great contributions for ourselves and for one another. So for me, Black cooperation is akin to, as Bell Hooks said, Black salvation. It really is akin to those things because I think it has that much potency for Black people.
All right. Well, this hour has gone fast. I want to leave at least next 15 minutes for those who are attending to make comment to what has been shared, or to share their opinion on some of the questions that we raised here. I do want to say that in the chat, I did put in the Network for Developing Conscious Communities email in ndccinfo@ndccnetwork.org for those who want to get more information on this Black convening. It is taking place. I put that in the chat as well on October the 21st through the 23rd in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so we're looking excitedly towards this convening because it's long overdue for us to have this conversation. And it's just the building block of many conversations that will come as a result of this discussion. So without that further ado, I do want to just give at least the audience the last 15 minutes to ask some questions or make some comments. So JQ, I turn it back over to you.
All right. So we're encourage people raise a hand or throw a question in the chat. It's up to you, Ron. Do you want to, as we see people questions, we'll ask them to unmute, or do you?
Yes, ask them to unmute.
Okay. All right. So we'll give y'all a minute to get your minds around some of that powerful conversation you just heard. And do you have any questions, comments, additions that you would like to share with our panel? Malik just wanted to throw out, Malik Yakini wanted to throw out a salute to Brother Ron and all Black cooperators. There will absolutely be a recording today. So
thank you, Malik.
Yes, I saw that question there. There is going to be a recording, and if you registered if you're here, you registered, and you will get an email as soon as that video is available. Should be in about a week. Absolutely.
Well, since
Malik,
there's no
does anyone have any more questions? Okay, well, I'm gonna give them a second because But as Malik said the other day, you were using that metaphor for something different. Malik presented for us yesterday, but he was talking about the dance floor and how somebody has to go first and then everybody is going to do it. He was talking about funders, but it's never, he's going to stick with me. It's like the best metaphor I've ever heard for the way funding works. But
and I think it's the way that sometimes Black corporation works, right? So I work with so many groups and they're always struggling with like, when are we ready? When are we ready? And I always say that, there will be some early adopters, right? So when you have the minimum number you need in a state, right, to start that corporation, I say move forward, right? And so I think one of the things that's been really challenging, and this is the reason why a national, body for Black corporation is important, because I think that the history of people of African descent, and that's why Collective Courage was so important as a book, right? Because Black people have been convinced, as Sister Keyona said, that we do not work together, right? We don't have unity, right? And so sometimes we don't have what Brother Dominic says is the Black radical imagination. We cannot imagine that radically Black people needs are met, right? And so I think sometimes I always tell people, let us just get this going. Let us get this going. Let us move forward. Let us set the vision, right? We have a group. It may not be 50, but it's 5, right? We're going to set the foundation and then invite people into that foundation. So I think sometimes we have to be the first ones to hit the dance floor to encourage other people that they can get out there and get boogie on, right? And so I want to just tell Black corporators, we're always looking for the big numbers. It only takes, I study social movements, and less than 5% of every population were the ignited revolutions, right? Revolutions were participated in less than 5% of every population historically. Dr. Tilley did this work. Charles Tilley did this work as a scholar. So again, we just need to be part of that 5% that's going to unite, ourselves and create cooperatives and then invite our brothers and sisters in.
Well, yeah, and I see this work as generational work, not just in the moment, but in the moments to come. And so, as Sister Assata said, that we're seeding the work. We're seeding the work for those that come behind us. And so, yeah, I'm excited about it. And one of the things that I want to point out, and I was having this discussion with someone today, is that we have to up the vibration in our community, the energy flow. We have to up the energy to a heightened level. And so in doing that, we're building that momentum. We're building that momentum to show not only to the world, but show to ourselves that we can do, that we are doers. We are doers. So yeah.
Brother, I'll jump in with a comment. So first, apologies for joining late, and kudos to everyone who's on the call and those who are moving this work forward. But I just have to say this, Sister Assata, I don't know her well. I've heard her speak a few times, but this sister is such an important, clear, strong voice. I just want to big her up and say that we need to be embracing her and supporting her, because she has something really special. So I just want to big you up, sis. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Malik. I really appreciate that. And I'll just say that, a lot of this work is just built on our love for Black people, right? Like Malcolm loved Black people. Like you read his writings, you saw his life, and Malcolm loved Black people. And so most of this work is just based on love, because we don't have the resources that we need. But Brother Malik, what you did was to validate my existence, right? You said, I see you, sister. I see you. I see you. And I'm keeping you in my heart and in my spirit, right? And that's what Black corporation does. It sustains us.
I feel you. More than see you, I feel you.
Thank
but really,
you, brother. I appreciate you.
Really, you something special, though. You know what I'm saying? You something special, and we need to figure out how we really embrace you and help to have your voice heard on a wider level. So I want to talk to you about that. Maybe we can bring you to Detroit, for example.
Yeah.
So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
So the mic is still open for other comments and questions. So let me turn to my panelists then, and for a couple minutes, we have about 8 minutes or 9 minutes left in the program. For 2 minutes, can you each just give a summation of where you see this movement going, what you are bringing to the table, what you like to see happen? Yeah, just give a 2-minute summation on some aspect of this movement. Go ahead, Gary. Start off.
All right. What I feel I bring to the table is a lifetime of experience. Not just like formal education, but informal education and just living life in itself. I think I bring passion, and then I'm very analytical and strategic and intentional in the way I move, who I move with, and in order to hopefully optimize my time here. I know it's not infinite time; it's a finite time, and I believe that spiritual and cultural connection that that's in the room every time we come together, whether it's at the convening coming up, or it's been at the National Black Conference or the FCI sessions dealing with food insecurities and giving space to the Black food cooperators and developers. So I just feel like I really bring the passion, and it's truly in my DNA. It's part of my lifestyle. It's never a job, and it's a purpose. It's my life's purpose. There's no other way to put it. And I'm vested, I'm invested, and I'm committed, and I'm pouring in what I got, and just hope that everybody is open to it with open arms and willing to accept my open arms and thoughts to really connect and build something and show people that this is realistic. It's not a pie in the sky type thing. It's something that's very tangible, that we can accomplish, that we can achieve collectively and together. This can be really robust socioeconomic change if we have all the work and all the parts moving together in a common direction.
All right. So a couple minutes to you, Assata.
I think that when I look back at kind of the building blocks of my life, I'd say what I bring is a demonstrated belief in fulfillment in community, right? I had the benefit of living in a free colony in East Texas, right? That was founded by Black people, had a Black school, a Black church, right? Black grocery store, right? And I learned in that community how to care for one another, right? And I learned the value of being seen by your community, going to Sunday school and, them encouraging me to read and be the treasurer. And I was always validated. So I came, into the world in a community. And then I lived in these strong communities in Houston, right? That as a single mother at the age of 16, I was able to still go on and get a PhD because of the community, right? That they invested in me. They cared for me. They created a safety net for me and my son, right? And I believe strongly I'm committed to community. So I bring a real dedication and a value for community, right? And that love for community that I think roots the work that I do and really is an asset to my working with other people, because at the base of what we're trying to do is build strong communities for sustainability, for resiliency, and for quality of life. And so that's what I bring. I bring a lifetime of commitment to community and with the tools of building and strengthening community. But what my hope is on a very practical level, that our national organization, right, that we establish ourselves, and that a year from now, you know, after this organization is established and we convene a national conference, we have a member from every state across this country, right? That we have a map. When we put that map up, we're going to see every state represented, and we're going to see clusters, right, in regions across this country, right? We will see Black cooperation has been revealed and it has been ignited, right? Not only will we build new cooperatives, but we will sustain Black cooperatives, right? And we will really create an ecosystem that's a dedicated network that people are able to tap into resources in their local state, or in their region, and then across the country. I see that that is possible for us within the next year. As we move from 23 to 24, I think that that is very possible. And as Ron and the others said, we have to have a sense of urgency. I think in closing, Ron, the COVID-19 taught me how precious life is, that I don't know how much time I have on this planet. And so I'm doing everything I can, day and night, night and day, weekends, right?
I want to say that time is closing, and I want to at least give some time to Keyona.
Thank you, Brother Ron, so that we have built this network within the next year, and in a sense of urgency.
Thank you. Well, Keyona, it's on to you.
So the biggest thing I would say for me, it's just the simplicity of it. What I'm learning in this space is, just as a Black person, as a Black woman, as it's so many different things, there's so much red tape, it's so many different ways of looking at things, that I'm just in a space where I want to be as simple as possible and just build as easy as possible, in a sense. And what I bring to the space is just being authentic and understanding that this work can be exhausting. Thank you. This work can be exhausting, but it's worth it. And somebody's going to have to do the hard work. Somebody's going to have to get it done. And we just really got to believe that it can be done. And building collectively and building cooperatives is a lot of stuff that I think we don't even know can happen and is possible. But if we really believe in ourselves individually and bring that together collectively, it's like magic. I mean, it really is magic. And then just the opportunity, even in the virtual spaces, just building with people that you may have never met before, but you get to see them, you get to talk to them, you get to hear them, and then bringing that to a Black space is just a beautiful thing. So what I bring to the space is just me being authentic and hopefully allowing other folks to be able to do the same thing. Because sometimes it's just hard, and you need, the whole purpose of being collective is just having somebody who can carry some of that weight with you. Who can push you forward sometimes, who can kind of hold you accountable, who can say, I got you. So that's really what I bring to the space. It's not perfect. Building together isn't perfect. It isn't easy, but it takes a level of discipline, honesty, and just a really deep innate belief that we can have it done, we can get it done, and that the world can look much different if we continue to do it. So that's really what I bring to the space.
All right. Well, I want to just thank Assata, Gary, and Keyona for sharing in this conversation this evening. Again, in the chat, I placed an email address where you can email any follow-up questions you may have. You can send them to ndccinfo@ndccnetwork.org. October 21st through the 23rd, we will be convening in Pittsburgh to hammer out and iron out and flush out all these thoughts that we have around this Black cooperative ecosystem and its development. JQ, I thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share our thoughts and our spirit this evening, and I'll turn it back over to you again.
Well, I'm not going to ask you guys to stay over the time you already committed to us, but there was a question that I just loved about, who and what should we be paying attention to already in this Black cooperative ecosystem? Like, I bet you guys could create a list, like what's going on that people should be paying attention to. But I'm going to just take this moment to lift up that Keyona Hough is with the Black Yield Institute. I'll be sending a link in a follow-up email so you can find her organization. Assata Richards is with the Sankofa Institute. I will be sending a link so you can connect to what they're doing and keep an eye on their cooperatives and how you can support them. Gary Hampton's with Ajani Group Cooperative, and I will also send a link to his organization. So that's a start. If you're asking like, what should we be keeping an eye on in the movement, who's doing what, I'll send those links. And of course, our biggest thanks to Ron for pulling together this panel. Ron Hantz is the executive director of the Network for Developing Conscious Communities, and I will be sending his link as well as that email address so you can send follow-up questions to him. So please check out all their organizations, follow what they're doing, see how you can support them. I want to just thank you all for taking this time out of your life to come and share with us and be a part of this platform. So I'm not going to put up the big closing the closing slides. This is our last session, and what a session to end on for our FCI Live Fall Series. And I want to thank our sponsors that do make it possible, the National Cooperative Bank, the USDA, National Cooperative Grocers, and CoBank. Thank you for making this series possible and giving us this platform that we could share. And thank you for everyone for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thank you.